Awesome. Here we go. Thanks again, Mark. Appreciate you jumping on with me today. Mark is the gold standard of mentors over at the Cape Cod sector of SCORE. So I'm glad he's here with me today. And I'm glad you all are joining me, whether it be your first or you're joining for the second part after those email basics we covered last month. Today, we're really going to take a deeper dive, get a little bit more granular in how to get the most out of email marketing. It's a tried and true method. It's been around for a really long time, but the core basic principle of getting the most out of email marketing really starts with list segmentation. So today, what are we going to be talking about? There's a few different categories and then subcategories. First, we're going to go over list foundations, some of the stuff we talked about last time if you were here, and the structure. So core concepts, including the different types of lists and the different types of building blocks within the account, the flow of the information through your account, and also building personas. After that, we're going to talk about building lists the right way. And then the last thing we're going to be talking about is personalizing your email and your deliverables with merge tags, dynamic content, and pivoting your emails down the road. So jumping right in, let's talk about some list foundations and structures. So today I'm going to be focused on two main platforms. There's thousands out there that you guys could use. Today I'm going to be talking about Mailchimp and Constant Contact because they're some of the first ones that kind of jumped up on the scene, and they've quickly built themselves into being powerhouses within the sector. But they're a little bit different and similar. They have very similar breakdowns and structures. So we're going to go over that a little bit deeper here. With Mailchimp, you have audiences, you have groups, you have segments, you have tags, and you have contacts. Whereas on Constant Contact, you have lists, and then you have segments, tags, and contacts. And then building up all of those things, they're made up of fields. To go in a little bit more in depth into each one, we're going to cover them. So first off, the building block of everything within your account are fields. When you log someone in on a sign-up form, they're filling out a field. They're filling out their email field. The beautiful thing about all of these platforms is they're giving you a lot more to work with than just those basic fields. Basic fields includes name, first name, last name, company name, source, aka where they signed up from, their email, etc. And there's specific pieces of information that you can actually personalize emails to. But then you also have this thing in most marketing platforms called custom fields. And this is really where it gets pretty interesting, because what you can do is you can create custom fields that aren't preloaded in your account that are specific to your business. And what you really want to do is when you're making these custom fields, you want to be specific to your field and your industry. And most importantly, your business. It should be something that doesn't change. And when you're making these think services, you offer content preferences, location-based information, etc. So to give you an example, right, we talked about company name, but think about if you have 4 stores, right? And you have 4 stores, one in Southeast Massachusetts, one in Cape Cod, one in Essex County, and one in Worcester County. Obviously, and if you're a brick and mortar store, you want people to come to your shop. So using that field, that custom field, and asking them that when they're signing up, it's going to place them in that spot. So now you can personalize the information you're sending to them. And that's in both Mailchimp and Constant Contact, as well as many other email platforms. Contacts are what are made out of fields. They're one single person or email address in your account, and they're set up because they have first name, last name, email, maybe some of those custom fields, a source, company name, etc. And to get the most out of your email marketing, you really need to commit to learning as much as possible about every single one of your contacts. If you're reliant on when people sign up and that's the maximum amount of time you're going to give them, you're not going to get the most out of all of this time that you're spending on your email marketing. Don't just keep sending emails without learning new things. So use tags, fields, and other tools to mark that info down for future use, and it's going to help you in the future. And now we'll break down two of the more common concepts that you can find in basically any email marketing platform. Mailchimp and Constant Contact both have variants to these. They work very similarly. Tags are kind of almost a note that you're representing for discovered information. So if you learn something along the way about certain customers, you can tag them. So for instance, say you run a clothing brand and you just sent out a promotion that was 15% off black hoodies, right? Customizable black hoodies. And you have 20 people respond pretty positively about it. They're probably interested in hoodies. So you may want to tag that contact interested in hoodies so that down the road you can use that again. And it's the easiest way to collect and keep track of info. And it's the easiest way to develop those customer personas we talked about in workshop 1. Customer personas are basically just finding out who's behind the email. Who is that person? And future opportunities. Segments are similar to tags where they're also notes, but the beautiful thing about segments is you're creating small groups of people that have something similar in common. So say, for instance, you tag people that they like black hoodies and you want to send them an email about black hoodies 2 or 3 months down the road. Well, what you can do is you can create a segment and you can provide a criteria within that segment, check all of the people into this segment that have an interest in black hoodies based on that tag. It's going to collect all those people and allow you to send it right to them. But it also has some other uses. You can segment people that you want to save within your account, that you want to delete, or even segment people that you're trying to tag as a cohesive group. And what you want to do is you want to try to keep segments temporary, because you can use other tools and other pieces of your email marketing as a more permanent use of building these groups. And we're going to actually talk about that right now. So just diving into the Mailchimp concepts. Mailchimp has groups within their platform as well. They're not segments, they're a little bit different. And these are more specific lists that are regarding characteristics that may be static or have multiple options. So if you're running, let's say you're running a kindergarten school and you have 5 classes. Well, most likely you're going to want to split each of those parents up into those 5 classes so that you can go ahead and send them specific emails based on that class itself. That's really where you want to use the groups. You can also tag them and say, this person is in class 1, this person's kid's in class 2, class 3, or you can just build them into groups, because that's going to allow you to quickly and permanently go ahead and reach out to them. And then the last thing is what's called an audience. And this is the be all end all, what I call the master contact list of Mailchimp. Mailchimp's a little weird because you can actually have multiple audiences, but I would recommend you try to keep one if you're a startup company under about 1,000 contacts. If you start getting more than that, it may make sense to do different audiences, but I would really limit it to if you have 2 audiences within your branding, right? So if you're running, if you have a band, right? But on the other end of the band, you have you're selling drumsticks or you're selling guitar cases. Those are 2 completely different audiences. They share the same brand interest, but you need to split them up because they're not in the market for the exact same thing. So that's really the only time I would try to go into multiple audiences. Constant Contact, on the other hand, only has lists above segments. So what I did is I created this system that I use. You don't have to do it, completely up to you. But I use what are called parent and child lists. So groups of contacts, usually with common characteristics, are going to make up your lists within Constant Contact. But I would recommend sorting them into those parent and child, so 2 groups. Parents are master list, right? Think your services, think your goods, think almost like what concept or content interest people are taking with what you're putting out. And then child lists are specific for click segmentation. And we're going to get to that a little bit later. Those are temporary lists. So your parent list, if you're a waste management company and you do compliance training, you do waste disposal, and you do waste stream audit. Those are 3 different lists because those people are specifically in those different in markets for different things. It's very similar to the groups of Mailchimp. But again, since we only have that one tool, the lists, we have to kind of get creative with this. You're also going to have your master contact list within Constant Contact, but use those parent lists like you would use groups in Mailchimp, and use those child lists as almost a way to segment people through that click segmentation. And we'll get to that. So here's the flow of information in Constant Contact. Again, you have your contacts. Contacts are made up of fields and tags. Those contacts can be put into segments. They're usually within larger segments. Those segments can be part of child lists based on that click segmentation. Goes down to those parent lists, which are those groups, and then your master list. So it almost flows like a pyramid all the way up to the top, where the contacts are the most granular piece. Obviously, they're made fields and tags. And then Mailchimp, very similar. Contacts, again, the most specific piece. They're made up of fields and tags because multiple contacts can share fields and can share tags. They're within segments, then they're within groups, and then your audience is your widest and most direct category.
Matt,
Yeah,
we have a question from Patricia.
of course.
This pertains to Mailchimp. In audiences, I did not see a drop down for groups. Is this where I create a segment?
So segments and groups are a little bit different. That's a great question. So groups are kind of hidden by Mailchimp. I really don't know why. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your audience tab on the left side. And then you're going to want to go to where it says your contacts, right? All contacts. And then there should be a small drop down where it says either manage your contacts or all contacts. And if you click that, you'll actually be able to see groups. That's a little bit more hidden. It's something I've never understood with Mailchimp because it's one of my favorite features to use. And if you need a little bit more help with that, Patricia, I can actually send Mark something to direct you there. But real quick, just to jump a little bit forward, using email marketing as a CRM, kind of along with what you were asking, Patricia, is using all of these concepts we just talked about. You can actually build your own CRM. You really don't have to go and pay for one right off the gate, especially if you're a small business. A CRM is a customer relationship manager, and a lot of people use CRM with their email marketing. So what you really want to do is you want to build each contact into a customer persona by adding the information through the methods we talked about, right? Tags, building segments, building groups. That way, the more and more information that you're gathering, you understand the person behind the email address. And if you treat people as people in your emails, you unlock the true potential of email marketing. Because if we go back to that first workshop we did, I asked one question. I said, what is most people's takeaway from email marketing? Most people say they open an email, they barely, even if they get that far, they read it and then they either delete it, they don't read it again, or they report it as spam or unsubscribe. The more that you understand someone, the more that you understand someone's needs, just like any sales concept, the more that you're going to be able to hit within your emails, and you're going to generate a lot more opportunities that way. So how do we find that information? Well, it starts with how people are signing up. How are you guys asking people to join your mailing list? Where are people signing up? Are they on your website? Are they on a landing page? Are they signing up through an app? What information are you collecting? And I'm talking past their first and last name, their phone, and their address. You don't need to go crazy with it, right? You don't need to make an entire test that someone has to fill out. But what's one crucial bit of information that you need in order to better understand how to initially help that person? When do you get your signups? Are you going to get your signups after a webinar, after a social media post, after you post a brand new piece of content? Why did they sign up? What was the offer? What was the promotion? Was it 10% off? Are you giving them a free ebook? Are you signing them up for a membership on your continuous webinars? Or are they at a summer camp? And how do you greet people that sign up? Do you have any way of immediately getting in front of them and saying, thanks, I appreciate your business. I appreciate you taking a chance on my business. Here's what I do. Here's how I can help you out. All of those things are so important. It's like that, the 4 W's and the H, right? Where, what, when, why, how. It's all important to think about when you're creating these sign-up forms, because that's going to give you tools that you can use in the future to really make a difference within someone's life, and also generate a lot more conversions for your business. And the next step is to test everything. Test, because you're not going to know it works, and you're not going to know the solution right off the bat. It's impossible. Even when I go in and I work with clients, it usually takes me anywhere from a month to 2 months to understand what are the best ways to get people into the email marketing platform, and also how to approach that welcome email. What am I asking? What's the sales copy I need to use? Where do I point them next? Where do I take them? So run a few A/B tests, and that's a common marketing test. You try to compare a few scenarios to get an idea of really what your customer is going to engage with the most. And then find out what's most receptive to that market and stick to it for a good long while. Keep running it because as time goes on, you'll learn a little bit more about those pieces and you're going to be able to pivot. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later today. So I talked about this very briefly earlier. This is called click segmentation. Click segmentation is another way that you can continuously learn more about your audience. So on both platforms, there's methods to do this. It's a little bit more complicated on Mailchimp just because you have to use automations, but you have the ability to segment your list by their click activity on the emails that you sent. And nowadays, emails are not good if you just judge them by open rate. We have a lot of privacy laws that have been put into place. And if you're really just running on open rate, it's not giving you the full picture. What you really want to do is look at the click rate, right? And more specifically, the clicks per opens, because that's going to give you almost a ballpark estimate of what people are doing once they open your email. And you want to learn information from that. And then you want to take that and tailor your next email to really amplify that sentiment that you just learned. So constant contact, what you want to do is you want to use links to funnel to child lists. This is bringing into what we talked about earlier. You have your parent list as your services, but if you have a piece of content in your email, you're probably not going to want to, based on if they click that, send them right to that larger parent list, because what you may want to do is you're going to send them to these child lists, and it's going to give you an opportunity to send them over to a parent list from the child list, but also tag them. All right, they clicked on a video of a podcast that I just recorded about how to establish acceptance in the workplace, and it was a meeting with this person. So what I would do is I'd go in, I'd send that to a parent list that might be communication, right? But I'd also want to tag that, okay, they're interested in podcasts, they're interested in videos, they're interested in interviews with this person, and they're interested in acceptance in the workplace. So all of those things I just learned about that person, now I can take that information and use it in the future as well. And that's just through a very basic builder icon that you can actually get whenever you build a constant contact email. All you got to do is click on the link where you're trying to put that content, and you're going to see that button that's on the screen, enable click segmentation. You click that, and then you can actually create a list right from that drop down to send them right to it. That can be your child list. Boom, you're set up with your newsletter, and now all that stuff is going to get automatically segmented into that list. Mailchimp's a lot more complicated, and this could be an opportunity for you guys to just hopefully I'll have a workshop down the road where I talk about Mailchimp automation. But what you want to do is you want to set up click segmentation through Mailchimp automations, and this could be restricted based on your plan. They typically do the starter plan. It opens up a lot more opportunities for the automation. But even for the free plan, your automations allow you to add tags, group contacts, and change audience fields and more. You have a limit of 4 steps. So say, for instance, someone clicks this particular link on an email, you add them to this group, you add this tag, and then they leave. That's still giving you 2 pieces of information that you can use. So absolutely worthwhile to use. It's definitely a little bit more a little bit harder to set up. It's something that we may have to talk about on a later date. And don't forget about custom fields. We talked about how fields are the building blocks of everything. When you're gathering click segmentation information and you're applying these tags and you're building up all of these customer personas, remember that information in your custom fields, because what this is going to allow us to do is it's going to change the landscape of every email you send based on those fields. Those custom fields, when I say they're the building block of everything, I'm not downplaying this. They're going to allow you to set up merge tags. They're going to allow you to use dynamic content, and they're going to allow you to lean into customer personas a lot more and generate more sales. So we're going to talk about that right now. So personalization is made up of 3 pieces. And this is on the most basic level. Again, once you start scaling your business, you get to a certain point. You really want to use a lot more automation, but for the time being, the emails that you send out, you really want to institute merge tags, dynamic content, if you can, if it's in your budget, and pivoting emails. Because building customer personas takes a lot of time. But as soon as you start gathering that information we talked about in your fields, in your contacts, in your tags, in your segments, in your lists, and in your groups and audiences, et cetera, it's going to make sending your emails a lot more effective. And it all starts with merge tags. So with merge tags, when you're collecting this information, say, for instance, you sent out a newsletter, and you have click segmentation as part of that newsletter. You sent out that podcast, right? And that podcast was about some aspect of communication, or if you're running a clothing brand, that podcast was talking about manufacturing clothing, and the environmental ideals that you're following as a company. And someone listens to that podcast, chances are they're interested in that environmental ideal and your environmental take on manufacturing. Well, that's a pretty good thing to know, right? So now you know they're interested in the environment and environmental protection. So your next email, you can say, and you can put these field values into the email. You can take that information that you just learned, and you can add that to maybe a primary interest, or maybe you can add that to content preference. For instance, with the other one, with the podcast, maybe their service that they're looking for is communication. So now that you log this into your custom field, you can go in and you can inject that custom field right into the email, just like you can with first name, company name, etc. So your email copy can read something like this: "Hey, insert customer's first name here. So happy to be doing business with your company, comma, company name here. We saw recently that you showed interest in our environmental podcast or our environmental conversation with this person. And we'd really want to show you the breakdown of how we manufacture our products. Here's our 3 most environmental friendly options. And then boom, now they feel like you're speaking right to them, right? Because you're using their name, you're using their company, but more importantly, you're saying, I know this about you. I've learned this about you. I'm paying attention to what you want, rather than I'm just throwing stuff into your inbox. And that's really going to speak volumes to a lot of people, because a lot of times that's their interest. And not many companies listen to people nowadays unless you have this massive budget. So as a small scale budget, your number one advantage is your ability to pivot and to move quickly. So if you move quickly and you target those people that are a little bit more in tune, it's going to help you out. So again, merge tags, basically injecting field values into the email. And you can inject it into the email or the subject line. So you can even say, calling company name here, looking for you, exclamation point, something like that. I don't know. That's a pretty bad subject line, but you know the idea. And again, that's targeted to them, and it can be any field, from the names you gathered to the custom fields that you've built over time. Even in your welcome email, if you have that one thing that we talked about, what's that one piece of information you need to learn? And you put that right into your email and say, hey, I know you're interested in this service. Here's what we do for that. Here's how quick I can call you. And here's some frequently asked questions that may be able to alleviate some of this initial anxiety. And that's going to speak volumes to people. So this is an example of some custom fields. So you can see, yeah, we have the company name, but what's their departments? What do their departments look like? Do they have a communication department, sales department, marketing department, etc.? How many direct reports does this contact have within their company? Are they interested in coaching? Are they interested in communication? All that stuff that's going to be able to shape kind of how you send out this next email, and even how you send out this welcome email that we're going to talk about very shortly. Mailchimp, very similar, right? I talked about initially on that sign up form, having that one piece of information. So this is actually an example from one of my clients that I've been working with for a little while. So this is an inquiry subject. When a potential customer signs up, they provide their email address, their first name. These are all, if you see these check boxes right on the first column on the left side, those are required. Those are required pieces of information. So their first name and their company name. I'm not asking for a lot, but also within the inquiry subject, this is required as well. It's not highlighted. I took this a little bit earlier, but your waste management, waste disposal, waste stream audit, all that stuff is so important to understanding, okay, what is this customer looking for? Because then immediately you take that information, you gather that information on your sign up form, you can send out a welcome email that's dynamic to that particular service. And it's going to help you generate an open rate, generate a click rate, generate maybe even a phone call or a conversion right off the bat. And you do that, you create that welcome email as a dynamic email with dynamic content. And I do have to preface this. This is a paid feature on most email marketing platforms. I strongly advise looking into this. Back when I was working for Constant Contact, and when I was a marketing consultant for Mailchimp, a lot of customers were a little bit hesitant because they did not know what this thing can do. But what I will say is I wouldn't jump into it until you've built that list, done the initial steps that we talked about today, to where you have a lot of information and you've built customer personas for your lists. That's when you can turn this stuff on and really get the most out of it. So dynamic content is content that is either hidden or shown based on customer personas, and mainly based on custom fields, and for Mailchimp groups as well. And what that's going to allow you to do is build one newsletter, right? And within that newsletter, you can put different types of content, different types of information, all this type of stuff. And if you turn dynamic content on for some of those pieces of information, what it's going to do is it's going to flush out all that information that's not necessary to that one person and still get them the information that they need. It's going to save you time. It's going to personalize every email you send out of your email marketing platform. And it's going to have that effect that we talked about, where people are going to feel like they're being listened to. and also that their opinion is valid, that you're approaching them and saying, hey, if we use that kindergarten example, hey, we're having a PTO meeting. Thanks again for helping us with this year's bake sale, because maybe that person helped with the bake sale. We're looking to do this, and this year, and we'd love your input. Thanks so much. And that way it's a little bit more personalized. And maybe you have a photo of the bake sale of all the muffins and the cookies that you made. But maybe there's another parent who didn't help out on the bake sale. Maybe they helped out rather on the car wash fundraiser, or maybe they helped by substituting teaching for one day. I don't think you can do that, but just bear with me here. Maybe they helped substituting one day, or watching the kindergarten class. Hey, Sheila, thanks so much for helping us with our with substituting for the kindergarten class. We just wanted to say that means a lot from our school to you. Here's some other dates if you could help us out. And the person who helped out with the bake sale and the person who helped out with substituting get two completely different emails, but they're all built within the same template. And it's just going to allow you to personalize without taking these times and building all of these different email marketing templates and sending them out. That's a huge time suck. And I completely understand why a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to get involved with this. But again, another example, having different classes for different people. Say you run a pottery class and you have 3 different classes. Maybe when you're welcoming someone that signed up for one of those classes, you don't want to welcome them to class 3 if they signed up for class 1. You want to welcome them to class 1, and you want to provide some of the information. That's going to be allowed with dynamic content. And if you want to add videos or images or other bit of tag, buttons, links, etc., based on specific services that people prefer, you can actually keep it targeted, and it's going to give you a higher click-through rate. It's going to build more segmentation lists and put more people in there. It's going to allow you to learn more information, and then rinse, repeat. The whole cycle starts over again. And that's slowly how you churn away at building those customer personas. But just as an example, I wanted to use that same waste management. And this is just an example. This is an older email. This is some of the dynamic content that I've used, right? Waste management at the top, waste disposal at the bottom. I built all of this stuff in one template, right? The copy is not there, but just notice the links. What is regulated waste, types of regulated waste, sharps disposal, FAQ. Those are all resources based on that service, right? Waste management, waste disposal. So what happens if someone who is interested specifically in waste management signs up? They're not going to get that waste disposal. They're not going to get those 2 links because it's not necessary to the service that they want. Instead, they're just going to get this. Boom. Waste management. All the copy stays the same call to action, but it's simmering everything down from this massive creation into just what they need to see. Okay, so you built out everything. You need to segment your lists, and you're finally sending out personalized emails. So what does that data look like? So some of the things that I would highly recommend paying attention to is pay attention to the click rates on dynamic content. How are people really interacting with your dynamic content? Is it worth making this dynamic content, or should you look at something else that you can kind of expand on? What's the open rate on merge tag personalized subjects? So those merge tags in the subject lines that I mentioned, you're interested in service type. Here's how to start. You're interested in waste management. Here's how to start. You're interested in waste disposal. Here's how to start. Find out what the open rate is like on those merge tag personalized subjects. If it's not good, or if you're really not seeing a whole lot from it, do an A/B test. Try something else. And then the last thing, conversion rates using that targeted copy, right? The dynamic content is going to be part of that targeted copy that you can use. Are people actually converting? Okay, they're not. Completely pivot the email. And that's what we're going to talk about. If something's not working, change it. I know I know it's probably going to be a little bit more time you're adding it, and I know how hard this is because I mean I do email marketing. I run my own business. It's the same stuff. It's one of those things where it's at the end of the day, you're like, man, I really want to go and have a nice glass of whiskey and watch the Pats game or whatever it may be. You don't want to have time for this email marketing stuff. But if you put in that extra 20, 30 minutes at the end of the day to just switch kind of some of those things that you're using, maybe change the subject line, maybe change one piece of copy, and just continuously test like we talked about, you're not going to be sending the same newsletters and you're going to be testing these new methods because eventually something's going to click and you're going to see almost like a switch turn on with your conversions, with your click-through rate. And it's going to take a while. It may not be the most definitive numbers, but it's an uphill battle. So what I would say is change the content first. What content are you sending them? Change that first. Okay. Then change the copy. What's the copy that you're really trying to sell people on? Written copy is so important nowadays. But again, some people may want to see that different content initially because it's the easiest to change. And then after you change both of those and it's still not working, that's when I would go back and I'd either look into a professional template or I'd use one of the pre-made on Mailchimp or Constant Contact, or I'd really look for someone who could rebuild your template or even do it yourself. Just to
Got two
make it a
more
little bit
questions,
fun.
Matt.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we stop for a second?
Yeah, definitely.
Maya asked, you mentioned that you can do dynamic content if you have the budget. Does it require additional cost?
So it all depends. Constant Contact doesn't let you really send out emails until you purchase a plan, right? Mailchimp, it lets you send under 500. It used to be 2000. They brought it down to 500. So Mailchimp will let you send dynamic content, but you actually do need to get the starter plan. Constant Contact, you would actually have to go from the basic to the plus. So it'd be the $20 to the $45. Mailchimp's a little bit more reasonable. I believe the starter plan right now is $17, but it's going to allow you to do the dynamic content. And then there's also some email platforms that have dynamic content for free because that's their competitive advantage. And I know Klaviyo is a little bit more forgiving with dynamic content. I believe Drip is as well. But a lot of them, again, they all have those little gives and takes, and maybe we'll talk about that down the road. But yeah, it does incur a little additional cost, but it's definitely worth it, I would say.
Great, thanks. The other question was from Diane. It says, can you go into a little more detail on A/B testing?
Yes, yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that you'll see if you have a Constant Contact account is before you send out any email, right at the very bottom where it asks you to input your subject line, it's going to ask you there's a little button that says A/B test. If you click that, what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to type in two different subject lines. It could be completely different. Might be different with one word. And you can actually send that to a smaller piece of your audience before sending it out to the rest. So maybe 20% of your audience, you want to send one of these subject lines, right? 50-50. 50% of those 20% of your audience, let's say 200, right? 100 people will get subject line A, 100 people will get subject line B. After preset amount of time, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, it's going to conclude its test, and it's going to say, you know what, subject B1, based on the open rates and based on the click rates that subject line got. So then it's automatically going to take subject line B, apply it to the subject line of the email, and send it out to the 80% leftover audience that you have. And that way you're optimizing your subject line. But Constant Contact has it for the subject line, but you can do that for anything you want. You can take any newsletter that you're sending out and you can test a specific type of content. Maybe you have a brand new podcast that you're launching, or maybe you have a promotion and you're trying to figure out what promotion to use, right? Then let's talk about our black hoodie example again. Say you have a promotion coming up for Cyber Monday and you have black hoodies and you're trying to test out two promotions. Maybe you want to do buy one, get one 50% off, and maybe you want to do 40% off the first one, right? Maybe you send that to a small portion of your VIP or your most engaged customers on your email marketing platform. And you send one to half of them and the other to half of them. And see what they do. If you get higher engagement on one than the other, go with that promotion. And the beauty of this, guys, is that you can take that promotion, and if you have a storefront and you're testing out this promotion, you can put it on your whole store. Okay, now I know that the buy one, get one 50% off is the promotion that most people preferred. Let me try that in the store, but also let me try that on the rest of my email list. It's a great way to do some market research before actually unveiling stuff within your store where you're going to get the most foot traffic. And even if you're just operating online, you may want to apply that to your online store or even your services. So that's kind of one example that you can use. And again, you can A/B test subject lines, content that you're putting in your emails themselves. Testing two different welcome emails for different people are going to allow you to understand, okay, what are people more engaged with it when I give them a frequently asked questions pre-sale, or if I give them some type of 20% off this and this service if they end up booking this service. So there's a few different examples. You can test two at a time. You can test 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it may be. But those are just some examples. I hope I answered your question. Mark, anything else, or should I spin through this last slide?
No,
here?
a follow-up question. Do both email services offer A/B testing?
So in a way, yes. So I would say, to answer your question, Constant Contact is the only one that outright states they have A/B testing. But A/B testing it's almost more of a concept, right? It's testing two variants to find the preferred variant by the customer. So the cool thing that Mailchimp has is they have what are called Mailchimp automations, and they're a little bit more ingrained than Constant Contact's automation, and they're a little bit harder to use, but they have two different functions that I use all the time. They have 50/50, and then they have if then. 50/50 at a specific point, say for instance, someone signs up for your sign up form. 50% of the time you send them one welcome email, 50% of the time you send them another welcome email, right? And then over time, you can kind of see the reports of both of those emails, and you can make your decision. That's an A/B test. Additionally, if you wanted to get a little bit more definitive, you can have an if then, right? If they open this email and clicked on this link, send them this welcome email. If they open this email and clicked on this other link, send them this welcome email. And that way it's a little bit deeper, and you're more distinct on which welcome email you're sending. That is something that I would say I could cover within a completely different workshop, and maybe I will down the road. Because it's so deep in really what you need to know for that. But to answer your question, yes, both accounts do have A/B tests in a sense, and most email marketing accounts and platforms do. And just to finish up, and we can save a little bit if there's some more questions a little bit later. That's fantastic. Just to finish up. So do not send the same newsletters. Change your subject lines as often as you can, and change how you write your subject lines, right? Without engaging subject lines, your open rate's going to be low. And do not get discouraged by low open rates on mobile devices. Right now, there's a massive, on all of these things, these iPhones, there's this massive backlash on this whole privacy thing. And again, I'm a huge supporter of privacy. I really like how they're doing this. Obviously, I think most people are. But as an email marketing professional, it's a little bit harder for me to understand, okay, is this email really be valuable to the customer? So don't get discouraged by low open rates. Get discouraged by the those low engagement rates with your dynamic content, low engagement rates by the content you're putting in the email, and then do change the content copy and then the template. But open rate means low engagement rate in a sense, and all the work you're putting into the content isn't seen at all. And that's true open rate. That's not the open rate that it's going to be shown. I know it's a little confusing. I'm actually just going to move forward because it's a lot. Don't be afraid to send completely different emails to different listen audience. We just talked about this with the AB. It allows for a more personalized email experience and a better engagement. And that's just what we talked about with having that AB test, sending 2 different emails to do 2 different parts of your audience. That's why you build those segments, and that's why you build those groups, because now you can kind of define what people are going to want to see. And that's it, guys. Keep it simple, focus on these things. You're going to see an improvement in your email marketing strategy. And if you don't, reach out to SCORE for more info. And I should have put, if you do reach out to SCORE for more info, you should just always reach out to SCORE. I mean, they've been an insanely valuable piece to my business, and I'm sure most of you can relate. And hopefully maybe down the road, we can talk about those automations. But for now, if there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer any. But either way, thanks so much for joining me today, guys. And I hope you took something from this.
Matt, we have another question relates to Mailchimp.
Yeah.
And before I ask this question, I'm going to launch our survey. So if you all could just complete it. Based on adding contacts, there's a field that says email type, text or HTML. Which should I choose, and explain why?
Yeah, so there's 2 different types of emails, right? I mean, every email that's going to someone's inbox is in a sense going to be an HTML file. But a lot of email builders nowadays, what they've done is they've created these templates, these pre-made templates, these email builders. And that's the text email, right? When you send one of your beautiful Mailchimp templates, you're sending that as a text email. But really what you want to do is you want to make sure that you give people the option at the very top of every email you send to see that in their web browser. That's an HTML email. So if you're sending your text email, that's going to hit their inbox. Some people like to see the HTML. Some people like to see really the bare bones of the basic email that you sent them. And they'll open that up, and you'll give them an opportunity. But I would say every single person that you sign up, you want to sign up as a text email, because that's going to allow you to take advantage of those templates, take advantage of the dynamic content. And so you can even give them an option when they're signing up. Do you want HTML? Do you want text? Either way, you can send text, but it's going to automatically convert to HTML for them.
Diane would like to know your contact information.
Per SCORE, I can't give that out, correct, Mark?
No, give them your SCORE email address.
Oh yeah, so my SCORE email address is matt@scorevolunteer.org. Or actually, it's mstevens@scorevolunteer.org.
Okay, that's all the questions we have. Wait a minute.
One more?
Just got one more. Matt, what sectors of digital marketing do you feel that you have an in-depth understanding in? Email marketing, SEO, social media marketing, influence marketing?
I would say the 2 that I specialize in are email marketing and SEO. Again, there's a lot of qualified people out there right now that are in influencer marketing, and that's definitely I'm getting to a point to where it's pretty big. And social media marketing, if you find the right channel, that's great. I believe in email marketing and SEO as being 2, if not the most effective for getting your thoughts out to your audience and reaching the right people. So those are the 2 I specialize in.
Okay.
And let me actually double check that SCORE email.
It's Matt, matt.stevens at scorevolunteer.org.
Thank you. I just pulled it up.
I did too.
Nice. You're on it. I appreciate you. Anything else? Is that a
That's all the questions we have. Anybody?
sweet? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. No stupid questions, only stupid answers by yours truly. All righty.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate you all being here, and we hope that you will join us again for another webinar, and reach out to Matt for any email marketing, and to Score for any mentoring, or you can look on our website at score.org, CapeCodscore.org, for our webinar program. Thank you very much, and thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Great content.
Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate all you guys for stopping by on this Wednesday morning. Mark, thanks again for your time, and hopefully I'll be back.
Great. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Okay.